Hey, and good morning to another episode of the Knucklehead Chronicles podcast. It is your man, Terry. It has been a minute since I've done one of these. And, I'm going to try to dive into the mental health portion of this. I know I've gone through a lot and my mental health is going up and down. And be that this month is what is it? It is Minority Mental Health Month. So I really want to get into that and just talk about some things that I've gone through since my last podcast appearance. And I was with the Blemish Beauty podcast with Shira. A lot of things have happened. I see people in different light now, but we'll get into all that in just a second. Hang tight.
Welcome to another episode of the Knucklehead Chronicles podcast. This podcast was designed to let you know that you aren't the only one that took forever to get it together. So the rabbit hole that you have stumbled down will hopefully help you understand that just when you think it's over, it's only the beginning. Just because you were dealt a bad hand doesn't mean you have to keep it. Welcome to the Knucklehead Chronicles podcast.
All right, I'm back, man. Yo, happy July. Man, this year is going by extremely fast. Like, if you guys have noticed, January 1st came in, man, and now we're looking down the barrel of August, man. Jesus Christ, kids back in school here next month. And, man, so much stuff is going on. But I am going to get into a little bit of my mental health update. It's, a lot of things have happened. And just to give you guys who haven't listened to this podcast a little bit of a recap, went through a divorce in July. January, first of the year. And it was tough. It was tough on a brother who, made some bad choices, but still, has a good heart. And so now, here in July, a lot of things have changed. I had to change my mentality and the way I moved and the way I did things. And I had to put some folks in my rear view. Sometimes putting people in your rear view is the hardest thing to do, but it's the most necessary thing to do. Because you have to, I had to get to a place where I had to protect my peace, because nobody's going to protect your peace but you. Ain't nobody going to do it for you. You got to protect your own peace. And so I woke up one morning and, like I said, those of you who have been listening know that I dealt with some, depression and, some suicidal thoughts. And I had to text 988 a couple of times. And those of you who are listening, if you don't know what 988 is, that's the suicide prevention hotline. And if you're going through anything and need somebody to talk to, you can definitely, used to be back in the day, you used to have to call them. But now they have it to where you can text them. And you can text the number at 988 and you can get someone on the line that will walk you through, talk you through things. And they'll even call the police for you if need be. So I suggest that. It helped me out of a couple of bouts of depression that I had. I had some very, very, very dark thoughts and I had to, text that number to get some help. But, a couple of months removed from that, now I just work. I work to keep my mind off a lot of things. I do try to go out and, put my face out there and just trying to get that outside interaction. And again, everything that I'm going to say today is for those who are battling right now. Because the problem that we have is that we don't want to help other people. We don't want to tell our story. We don't want to, because we feel like we don't do it out of fear of rejection or fear of judgment from people. And for me, it doesn't matter because I have a story to tell. Now, whether you judge me, laugh at me, whatever it is that you feel about me, you can kind of, you can have it, you know what I'm saying? Because it's still at the end of the day, it's still my story and it's still your story. And despite whether or not you believe that your story can help somebody, it absolutely can. It absolutely can. I've gotten DMs and inboxes from people that said, your last podcast episode really helped me. And then for that, I do this podcast thing part-time. And, even though I should be pursuing it full-time, I'm not, because I work. I work for a living. But just a few things real quick that I've gone through. The first thing is learning how to put people in your review. That's the first thing. Putting people in your rearview mirror. Once you come to a place where your peace is everything, once you get to a place, once you've been to the depths of hell, feels like, once you've been to a place of hell, once you come out of that and you get to a place of being able to function, everything else in life means nothing. It absolutely means nothing. And I say that with a level of respect, because the level of peace we have to reside in sometimes takes us to where we have to throw people in the back. Because, I heard Trent Shelton, excuse me, the famous positive content creator who's an ex-football player and all that, lost his mom a few years back. And, he's really been a positive mentor. And he said, you cannot heal in the same place you got cut. That is the truest statement I've ever heard in my life. And even when, it's dark and people have something to say, everybody got something to say, because understand this, as a man, you're always the bad guy in somebody's story. Always. Please know that, right? And I realized that I could not hold on to those same relationships that I had when I was married. There are a lot of people that we share friends with that after the split and after the divorce, I can no longer be friends with, because they sided with her more than they sided with me. But at the end of the day, it's not about sides, but that's what it comes down to sometimes. In this society, it comes down to whose story I believe, who I ride with the most. And that's the problem with a lot of people. And so for that, everybody that I knew and ran with my ex, and, you chose to side, quote unquote, with her. Listen, I'm not going to be mad at you. I applaud you for taking the side and all that. I applaud it. So this is what I do for the people that are exiting my life. Sayonara, sayonara, right? That is, the old saying goes, que sera, sera. So all those, at the same time, those folks that sided with her and had something to say about me, this is what I say to you.
Oh, don't be like that. If I had a rock, I'll bust your head, bitch. Say, man, she deaf,
So you guys can go ahead and be, exit stage left, all I care about. But anyways, but it's very important to put people, negative people who got something to say, in your rear view, because the protection of peace will become more important than anything. In my journey, that's what I'm learning. I'm learning that protecting my peace is important. And I've also sat back and I looked and I realized that I let a lot of people influence how I moved, even when I was married. And sometimes, and you get to that point where I don't want to move that way no more. I don't want to be that guy anymore. And so in my journey, I had to protect my peace. And let me tell you something about protecting that peace. Once you get a taste of it, you don't want enough. And it is liberating, to say the least, to be able to get up, and move on my own steam and not have to worry about what anyone else has to say. Because somebody has always got something to say. So if you're listening to this, you're going through a mental health journey, or you're learning, you have to put people in your rear view, especially if you want to protect your peace, right? That's the first thing I want to talk about. Second thing is that in my personal mental health journey, I've had to, I almost lost my faith in people, because, people are amazing, especially when it's about them and them only. You know what I'm saying? It's amazing how people move. And I'll give you an example of what I'm talking about. And I said I was not going to bring this up in any podcast episode or even address it, but I got to because I don't like what happened. Okay, it's the story. A couple months ago, I went to Kansas City. No, let me back up a step. A couple months ago, I had been following this guy on Instagram. He was a barber and really cool dude, right? You know, I love his content. They went by the name of Dr. Huncho, or those of you on social media may know him as Sly Huncho, SLY.Huncho on Instagram. Really cool dude. Supported him. You know, I lived 2.5 hours from Kansas City. So that's where he is. I thought he was in Atlanta. When I checked his bio, I realized that he was in Kansas City. So I said, I'm going to get my haircut by this dude. Now, his haircuts are extremely expensive. I mean, you know, if anybody that follows me on Facebook saw the video, he cut my hair is $150 to get a haircut, right? But because of the experience and because of how I felt after the haircut, I supported him, did everything that I could, you know. And so got the haircut, came back home, felt like $1 million, whatever. My friend, those of you who have been listening to a couple of episodes before, my friend Courtney came in and she actually paid for me to get a haircut the second time, right? Now, in between the two haircuts, he did a camera giveaway, right? Or a raffle for a camera giveaway. And it was a Rebel R1 or whatever series camera it was and a tripod. So, excuse me, I went ahead and bought 6 raffle tickets and it was $20. It's nothing. It's you know, to still support him and what he was doing. So I bought 6 raffle tickets. A couple of weeks after the second haircut, I get tagged in the Facebook video where he had announced the winner of this camera and this tripod. Lo and behold, it was me. And I was like, oh my God, I want a camera and a tripod. So I reached out to him on Instagram. I was like, hey, this is my address, and no response. Excuse me. I let a couple more weeks go by. Hit him again on Instagram. At this point, he had went to Atlanta, did a video, and again mentioned me in Atlanta, in that Atlanta video, because he was just recapping what was going on in his life. So I hit him again on Instagram. I was like, hey man, when do I get my camera? You know, and he was like, oh, I just got back from Atlanta. It should go out next week. All right, cool. It is July 13th. I'm sorry, July 13th. And next week has not come. You know what I'm saying? So I hit him up on Facebook. And apparently his Facebook profile is banned, but he's still uploading videos. I'm not sure how that works. And hit him up on Instagram about 3 or 4 more times. No response. He went silent on Instagram. I even tried to hit him on the barbering app, Style Seat, to get a message, and nothing. I've got nothing. And I looked right through my timeline to see because of course, if he tagged me in the video, it would be on my timeline. I went back on my timeline, looked, and the video that he had tagged me in was deleted, gone. I was like, okay, and so again, reached out to him, and the type of barber shop that he has, because he's a traveling barber, you can't call the shop and talk to the barber. If you Google the barber shop, you can't call the shop. So unless you have his personal number, you can't get to him. So I waited for a response, hit him back, waiting for a response. That was April. So that's been a couple months now. And I still have not received the camera. Now I said all that to say this. Some people aren't who they say they are. And for me, that hurt me because I supported this dude. Everything he does, I supported him. And I won that raffle. Fair and square. He did the drawing. He did the plucking of the ticket online and I won it fair and square. And I still hit it July 13th. And I have not seen that camera or tripod or not received any kind of message from him. The last message I received from him was he had came back from Atlanta and the camera should have went out. or it should go out next week. That's been sent. That was back in April, and I've not heard anything. So again, I said all that to say this: that people, I lost my faith in people. I've had some instances where I tried to be a supportive friend to some folks, and they took my friendship and was like, "Oh, you have an agenda. You got this. You got that going on." And I'm like, "What? I'm just trying to be supportive." And nothing. And I was told I was, all kind of crazy and I had some kind of agenda. And I'm like, you know what? I'm done. I even had an instance with my ex-wife where we got into a very lengthy texting sparring match via text. And then I was like halfway through that. And I was like, you know what? Why am I arguing with you? We're divorced. We are divorced. You have gone back to your last name. We have nothing else to talk about. If it's not about Terry Jr., we ain't got nothing to talk about. And so, again, it's about putting negative in your rearview. And I had to learn that. And that's where I am in my mental health journey, is having to learn how to put folk in the rearview mirror. Life is hard enough. It really is. It's hard enough when you have to, especially after divorce. Because you go from having a full-time family and doing what you're supposed to do, for your family, to not having a family, and then having to deal with life in that arena, trying to keep your mental health straight. And, I try not to be phony, when I deal with people. I try to be really real with people and let them know how I'm really feeling, and trying to deal with really emotions, because being fake does nothing, right? Because at the end of the day, when you're left with your own devices and you have to deal with yourself, it's crazy. And it's a hard place to be. And with me, I had to just cut all of that out. I had to cut the negative people out. I've had to really deal with Terry, because sometimes we don't want to deal with us. We don't want to deal with us. We want to put the blame on everybody else. Nope, that's not that, because that's not how it's supposed to be. You got to deal with you. And I realized that, I made some bad choices. I hurt some folks over time. But it is I'm at a place in my life, in my mental health journey, that my peace and my happiness comes before anything or anybody else. It has to, because if it does not, you will not survive it. If we don't wake up and realize that our peace is more important than anything or anybody, you will be swallowed up by this stuff. You'll be swallowed up by negativity. You'll be swallowed up by nonsense. You'll be swallowed up by negative people, and it will just destroy you. So if you're listening to this, make a decision today that when I wake up in the morning, just make a decision at any point. Make a decision. My peace is important. At the end of the day, my happiness is important. Stop trying to live for other people. That's the mistake that I made too. Trying to live for other people. Stop doing that. Because what is that going to do? It's going to make you trying to live for other people, and you missing the mark with that person. And you trying to do the same thing with someone else. It's a recipe for disaster all day long. All day long, it's a recipe for disaster. And at some point, you guys say, you know what? I got to live for me, and whoever comes into my life has to fit in that mold. If they don't fit into that mold, then, you got to move on to the next thing, because you absolutely cannot try to live for other people. It doesn't work. It just doesn't work. Because if you live for other people, you forget. That's another problem with people, is that we try to live for other people and we lose ourselves trying to be something for somebody else, when we're not doing the William Shakespeare and saying, to thine own self be true. You have to be true to yourself first. Because if someone cannot accept you, who you are, you don't need them anyway. And it is time to move on. So my episode today is dedicated to the ones who are listening and who are going through and can't figure out how to get from one step to the other. First of all, sister or brother, breathe, right? Trauma hurts, and you have to breathe. If you break your arm and go to the ER and you're hyperventilating, the first thing they're going to tell you is to breathe. That's the first step in the healing process, right? The second is the purge. You have to purge yourself of the evil and the nonsense and the bullshit and all of that. You have to purge yourself because you can't recover a mental health incident trying to hold on to the old stuff. It does not work. It goes back to the definition of insanity. What is that? The definition of insanity is trying to do the same thing over and over again, expecting a different result. It's not going to happen. You are going to have to make some changes, throw some people out, look in the rearview mirror, forgive yourself. I've always said that. Forgive yourself because ain't nobody else going to do it. Right? And as angry as I was at my ex, as angry as I was at the world when I went through my divorce, I realized that 98% of the stuff that I went through with my divorce was my fault. I'm not taking the whole blame now. I can do that. But a lot of that was my fault. You got to forgive yourself. You got to move on. There's more to life. Do what I do. I'm a baseball fan. I love baseball, right? So I go to anybody who knows me knows I'm a Kansas City Royals fan. I go to Kauffman Stadium every chance I get. That's my happy place. You have to find your happy place. You have to do things that make you happy. You cannot continue to linger and mope and cry and all that. And it's okay if you do that. If you do mope and you do cry, it's okay because again, crying is a level of purge because we're getting all the old stuff out. So crying is okay. But what we can't do though is that we can't stay there. We cannot, have crying sessions and hope that when I get done crying, it's going to be better because it's not. Because you're going to have to put in work at the end of the day. You're going to have to say, okay, I have to put in work. And sometimes the work is not always easy. The work is not always easy because it causes you to look at yourself. It causes you to forgive people. It causes you to forgive yourself. In order to get to the other side, you are going to have to put in work. It's okay to hurt. It's okay. It's okay to feel a way about people, situation. It's okay to feel that way. But what we can't do is stay. We have got to put on our boots and get the mud stomping on some stuff. We have to do that. In my mental health journey, I've had to do that. I've had to put in that work. I had to forgive people. And now I'm not saying that I'm fully healed. I'm not saying that. What I am saying is I'm on a road to be becoming healthy again. And we have to fight for that because it's not going to land in your lap. Your freedom comes at a price. Your mental health freedom comes at a price and you're going to have to do it. I've had to. I've cried many a night. I've held onto my pillow, wishing my son was there. I've done it. I know what it's like, but your freedom will not come without a price. Please know that. And so with that being said, I'm going to get on out of here. You guys have a great rest of your weekend. Hope you enjoyed the episode. If you have any show topics, anything like that, listen, hit me up. Or you have any questions that you'd like for me to answer on air, hit me up. The emails, Knucklehead Chronicles podcast @gmail.com. Hit me up at any time. I'll be more than happy to answer any questions, fill in any comments, any of that. But you guys have a great rest of your weekend and we will see you next time. That's not the one. It's not the one. Let me get there. Hold on. There we go.
Thank you for listening. I hope I didn't fry your brain too bad. Come back through and give me another chance. You can listen on all platforms and visit us at knuckleheadchroniclespodcast.podbean.com. Until next time, in the words of the incomparable Jerry Springer, take care of yourself and each other.